Hola, film family, ¿qué tal? It's xIsusko, aka the Walking AD, aka the Time Scheduler. It's June. Can't believe it. It's here, 6 months. Where is the year gone? So my first shout out goes out to the legendary popmaster Matty Marsden. Thank you so much for putting a review on the Apple Podcast, brother. It means so much. Ladies and gents, go do it. It means the world. Thank you. Secondly, I got an email from the Pro Carton Student Video Awards. Ooh-wee! And they've emailed me and they're looking for students to make a video. There's a brochure and there's info, so just hit me up, DM me, email me, whatever you need to do just to get the info. But all film students, media students, they want to get you to make a video. The winner gets €5,000. Hello! And my email address I'll put in this episode bio, so go check that out. And lastly, I've decided I'm going to do a sponsored walk for the film and TV charity, just because they've done so much for all of us, for the film family. I just want to try and get some money back for them so they can help people that are just maybe in a tougher situation than yourselves. I'm aiming to do it Friday the 26th of June, so end of this month. I'm giving myself a few weeks to kind of try and train for it. There's a heavy pencil though on the 27th, just in case that that massive 5-day commercial that's just round the corner comes in for the end of June. And the basics are: I'm going to do 30 miles and I'm going to aim to do it in 12 hours. I'm going to walk it and I'm going to go from my house and I'm going to go to Black Island and back. Yes, La Isla Negra, the home of TV commercial productions in London. I'm going to call it my lockdown pilgrimage. It's going to be all over my socials for the next kind of couple of weeks. The link is going to be is in my bio for both Film Gods and the Time Scheduler, so please go check that out. Any amount that you send over, you'll get a shout out for that first week in July or second week in July, whenever I stop the funding. And then the top 3 one-off payments will get a big love in the intro. So if you want to get big love in the intro, drop what you can. Wow. Well, already Phil Juma, big love, and Johnny Don have already contributed. So massive love going out to those two boys. And before this becomes like a 12-minute chat monologue, I'm going to leave it here. I love you all. Have a cracking week. Have a lovely weekend. Big love. And let's do this. Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Hello, film family. So we are delving into a world that is new, that is fresh, that has been around now for a handful of years. It's a role that is super important because without it, DPs now are using this particular type of person as their sounding board, as their creative backbone, as their person that they go to tell them that things are okay. And we've got one of the best and a lovely man who I have such a wonderful time on set with. So without further ado, what is your name and what do you do, sir?
Hello, my name is Mark Kozlowski and I'm a DIT, or Digital Imaging Technician.
Boom. So what does that role mean to you?
So, well, firstly, I want to describe the term, because it's a bit of this. As you know, and as you said, we are a bit of a weird role. We're kind of new, they're 10 years old, 10, 15 years old. And it's kind of come out of nowhere. So there's a bit of sort of friction when we first turned up, which I've been doing this for a long time, about 10 odd, 15 odd years, along with some other really lovely guys, Elvin Prentice, Vlad Martins, Matt Cole, Phoebe Fraser, James Lewis. If I didn't mention you guys, it's not personal, it's just what comes to my name. Anyway, so I was having a chat with someone online the other day, as you do, because we're all digital these days. And so the name Digital Imaging Technician actually came out of America, and it was based on the union systems. So when a post facility sent out digital cameras, the DPs didn't know how to use them, so they had to send out technicians with them. So they couldn't call them a sound video engineers because it was part of the 695 union, which again, union stuff in America I don't really understand.
Is that like a CCTV, like a video playback?
Yeah, kind of. So that was their name, so they couldn't use it. So basically, under the 600, they called them digital imaging technicians, and therefore they could now put them into the union. The problem is, because the role keeps changing, the names keep changing, so it doesn't make them a mandatory position. So we don't really exist and do exist, and it took us a long time to kind of get there. again, this is good. There's a bit of preamble, but like we started a group in the UK. It was Vlad, the King of the DITs. We love lovely Vlad.
Yay! Who I'm speaking to. He's going to come on and do a little podcast.
Amazing. Well, he kind of started, kind of unified us, not in a union, but unified us in the UK and kind of put us together. And we all kind of set up. I mean, Jeff Brown was there when he was a DIT, obviously running Brand New Motion, and loads of other people who are now, some of them are DOPs and other stuff. We sat down and just basically said, let's make this something. So it's not a digital loader, it's not a data wrangler, it's not this, it's not that, it's something else. So he basically said, let's put this group and let's share information, let's talk, let's make it work. And from that, it kind of progressed out into Digital Orchard, Mission Digital. I think the guys at CineArc and who do make films and dramas mainly, but it's all we all kind of formed. I wouldn't say Vlad started it, but it all kind of petered out.
Hey, you gave him the title King of the DITs, man. King of the DITs. That's big.
He's the one. He was the one.
You've got to get him a crown.
I think he has one. But anyway, but what Vlad did was really nice. Was he basically made a place where we could go together and talk. And so when a new camera came out, we could discuss how to do it and so on and so forth. And we've still got this group. It's moved over to a new forum and with an app and stuff. But we just talk, we share work and so forth. So it's really good. But obviously, as our role keeps changing and so forth, we don't know. Without that, we wouldn't have been what we are right now. And I know that one of the issues, especially even now, and there's a thing actually happening tomorrow because of it. The university student lecturers say, hey, if you want to get in the film industry, become a DIT, get a laptop, go off for loads of rushes. And that wasn't the right advice to give people, because you turn up on set and like there'll be myself or one of the pre-mentioned DITs or someone who's been there for ages, and we lose a job because a guy would come in and undercut us rate-wise and then not do the job properly. Yeah. And so therefore there'd be problems and other stuff would lead from it. So again, our little group was important because it gave production and everyone else also a place to go, well, these are the people who will do the job right, and these people are just people who are just offloading rushes. Yeah. It's not the same thing, and I'll explain obviously what we do in a minute, but that's the kind of the preamble of what the DIT is. We're still kind of finding our feet. And this meeting I'm having tomorrow is a whole bunch of DITs. I wrote a document last year, which I've been peddling around for about a year, to put a structure into the department. So I want the DITs to have a leveling structure. So we have trainees, we have a data manager and a DIT, and then also on-set color, so you can actually split off into different places. So actually have a whole defined structure. So apparently this has gone to the GBCT and other people, and basically a whole bunch of people are doing a meeting and said, oh, do you want to come along? And I went, oh, I wrote a document about this. And they went, I know, we're going to be
that's why we've invited you. You're going to be the guest speaker. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, fine, great.
No, not necessarily, but I think it's what I did was essentially I put down in words what everyone was thinking. And,
it makes sense. So, me growing up, started as a runner, got in when it was film, saw the change to digital, and it was like, I remember the days where it was like there was like one dude in the UK and he only had one red, and he then had to buy two because no one would buy the one because you wouldn't be insured and da-da-da. And now you kind of see DOPs going over to Focus and a whole list of camera team just over your shoulder checking things. Is it this? Is it that? What can the colors do? What can the colors not do? Yeah. And kind of thinking that someone can just drag and drop and be a data storage manager type person, but also have the same, be as efficient to a DP. So what is it that, let's just get into it then. So what is it that you're doing on a day-to-day? My first question would always be pencil to invoice, but we can always deal with that question earlier if you just want to get straight into what it is that you're doing on the set. Right.
So, do you want to do the history of the digital thing first, or do you want to try and go into the into what I do?
You're cool.
Right. So let's go into the history of it. So, because the best way to understand what I do is by knowing where it's come from. So, digital cameras about 10, 15 years ago basically started exploding, as you just said, like 5Ds, Reds. They led the way. Everyone's shooting on them because they knew, they're fresh, and commercials are different to films. Just make that clear. And dramas, they're all different bits that do different things and part of each job. So because of that, DP didn't know what they're doing. So they're like, well, we need someone to do it. So we come along and we go, great. Well, we'll look after the camera for you. We'll let you know what's going on and how it's going on. We'll just keep an eye on and stuff and just let you know it's all okay. Like, fantastic. So what we're doing essentially is replacing the laboratory in the film developing process.
Nice.
And also the central loader. So central loader, we're offloading, and then we're doing the lab process, and then we're providing material for the offline as in post-production and so forth. So we're kind of putting everything together, making it all work, but we're just replacing this lab workflow essentially and the central loader, which means we speed things up, which means we can find problems on set straight away. We can find exactly how it works. So the problem was that the film guys didn't like us. They were like, well, film's never going to go away. We don't know what you're talking about. Digital's, nothing's going to happen. So
when you say the film guys, are you talking people that worked in film or people that worked on film?
People who worked on film. So digital was really kind of rebuffed. And again, this is why I need to tell you the history of it. So Kodak developed the original digital camera. So they were the first people to come up with a patent. So someone came into an office and went, hey guys, look at this. I can make this one photon appear on this tape and I can play it back. Look, isn't it amazing? And all the chairman boards went, okay, well, this is a problem. So if this is, how long before this supersedes film? And they went, they use Moore's law, and Moore's law is the observation that a number of transistors in a dense integrated circuit doubles every 2 years.
You better be reading that off a paper, brother. You don't want to give up.
Reading it. But what it means is that we're basically smaller and smaller transistors go onto a sensor, which means you get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller to a point where your square becomes a circle. And so therefore you can't tell the difference between film and digital. And personally speaking, that's when the Sony Venice came out, which was about last year, where we superseded film. We can actually see more in a film, in a digital image than you can in a film image. And nice. I'm sure people would argue with me with that, but I said,
hey, that can be a podcast. I can get you on and someone else on, and I can just let you go at it.
Absolutely. But like, so I personally speaking, the Venice has got 16-bit color, which is over 1 billion colors, and it shoots in 6K, and it shoots with about 15 odd stops of latitude, which is again more than any film camera. So it's the first time you can do whatever you want with the camera. It's an amazing piece of technology, not taken away from the Alexa or the Reds and so forth, which is another conversation, but that's how it works. Anyway, so what happened in this boardroom? They said, how long did it supersede it? And the guys at Kodak went, oh, it's about 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. And they go, oh, we're going to be retired by then, so it's someone else's problem. So they just kept them funding it. Yeah, no worries, just keep developing it, see what happens. We'll keep the patent and see what goes on. And it led to the destruction of Kodak. It led to the destruction of film actually collapsing because digital just took over. Yeah. Because with film, you can't see an image. When you're playing live, you can sort of, but it's not great. And clients freak out and everyone's freaking out. Goes, is it going to be okay? Is it going to be okay? And with digital, you're plugging it in and you see pretty much what you're filming. So obviously people are going to move forward because we are an end-to-end supplier. You want us to shoot something, but they want to know what we're doing and looking over our shoulder. I always refer to it as the plumber. The plumber sitting there fixing the pipes and they're looking over your shoulder going, do you want to use that spanner instead of that spanner? Do you know what I mean? That's what we do. We show them what we can do. And the DITs on set, because of the tools we have, we can now do more. So we can actually change the color, like live gradings. We can change the colors on set. We can change literally everything. And I mean, obviously this leads into the trending thing we're going to talk about. I've just done a complete virtual workflow where I was at home and we offloaded from the cameras, checked the cameras, did everything literally from our own homes. We didn't leave. They filmed everything and we just took it and did everything with it and, end to end. And it's going to be out sometime next week or so. But anyway, so the digital cameras, they now again superseding what film does. I'm not taking away from film. Film has its own way of doing things and digital has a way of doing things. They both have a place, same as oils and acrylics and water paints and so forth. Nice. There is a place for film. There always will be a place for film. If you want to shoot,
I like that little kind of. I hadn't really thought. I'd always just seen it's kind of black and white. It's like you either shoot film or you shoot digital. But actually seeing it as an art form and kind of thinking, well, they love painting with chalk. They like sketching. They like watercolor. That's a really nice way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's what the DP wants to see. DP and director show, I should say. Well, DP and director, what they see is what they want to paint with. Like I said, they're the artists, and we're the technicians that literally are there to support their vision and what they're trying to do. We're trying to make it work. As ADs and so forth. I always say to everyone, we're all artists. Everyone on set is an artist. Like just because the director and DP are wearing those hats today, tomorrow they might not be wearing those hats, and you'll be wearing that hat. It's fine, but you're still an artist, so you have an opinion, but you're there to support their vision, and that's what technicians do. And that's what what we're strong about. Anyway, so one of the bad things about obviously the transition between the film and digital was I do remember this when I did some promos years ago, and I turn up, go, good morning, hello, I'm Mark, I'm the DIT, and the focus puller goes, stop. Don't come near my camera. You go over there. I'm over here. Don't tell me what's going on. And I'd be like, okay, but okay, fine. I'll leave it. And I kind of had a few fallings out with certain people. But then I just literally one day thought, oh, I've got a good idea. And I went, great, no problems. I'll let the producer know that the way you set the camera up is, and any problems that happen are your responsibility. So if they're wrong, it's your fault. Or you can let me look at it and I'll
Yeah.
take responsibility for it, and
Yeah.
then we can do it. And that's how I built a lot of relationship with focus pullers, because I said, let me take responsibility. Let me take the load off you. So it's
Yeah,
not
nice.
it's not yours, it's mine. And they go, that's fine, because that's that's where it happened. That's, again, you're creating a role. So I always felt if I take the responsibility, then it's my role. And that way focus pullers can, they can appreciate that. Okay, fine, cool. I don't have to worry about that. So
Well, they've got enough on their plates anyway. It's if you can take a spinning plate, I think one of the AD said it was like, if you can take a spinning plate off me, I'm more than happy for you to do it.
Yeah. Well, listen, the focus pullers, I still think, at this point now, and it's one of the hardest jobs on set.
Oh, God.
They're just, it's relentless what they have to kind of put on a day-to-day basis. I've got a lot of respect for lots of focus pullers friends, and like, they really are the MVPs generally on most sets. But
even on the little promos and stuff that I've worked, and you kind of, it's handheld and it's short, and it's really tough, and they're trying to, you just see their hands just flicking, and all of a sudden it'll be like one little bit that just maybe wasn't as sharp as it should have been. It was like, oh, was the whole thing sharp? You're like, yeah, the dude's like running around, jumping about on like a 75 mil, whatever foot with whatever stop. That's a really hard shot to focus pull.
Yeah,
I think it's amazing.
And then they get someone like me going, by the way, it was soft. But
like,
always
shut up.
Always quietly to their ear, never in front of other people. Just very politely say, would you like to have a look at the focus? I'm not sure it's quite right. And like there's a respect there that has to be kind of upheld. And there's a lot of people that don't keep that. I said, the relationship between DITs and focus pullers, DITs and DAPs and stuff. Essentially, we're like the secret little guy hidden in a van outside that people come and go, is it okay? And you go, it's fine.
It's fine. It'll look great. Don't worry. Okay, cool. Sweat dripping off the brow.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I see it. But there's a documentary that I recommend watching called Side by Side. If you've not seen it, it's Keanu Reeves leads it, and essentially he talks about the digital versus film, kind of the balance, how it's happened, where it's come from. So a lot of the stuff I've just been talking about comes from this documentary, and it's part of different things. Like the first film ever shot fully digitally was Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And absolutely, George Lucas got hammered by the whole industry. How dare you shoot on digital? It's an HD. How dare you shoot digital? How dare you? You're going to ruin the industry. This is the worst possible thing ever. And he just went, man, I'll just do what I want to do. And, and did. And but without him, and Star Wars originally was the first film from that he developed Lucas, what was it? Skywalker sound. So all the sound developments and sound came from those films. So George Lucas did that. He was also Avid wouldn't exist, Final Cut wouldn't exist. Like all the stuff he was doing during the Star Wars films and stuff actually led to the whole, and previously led to this. Where you can edit at home, you can get Final Cut. I'm editing at home. You can do virtual editing. You can work everywhere, and it all came from this digital revolution. People think it's the cameras, but it's not just the cameras. It's the projectors. It's the software we use. It's it's how, because film would always be scanned into digital to cut with before you cut with scissors on a piece of film. So, like I said, George Lucas has done a lot for our industry, so I don't think he deserved it. And here's another fun fact: Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom. Do you know the rolling ball? Yeah. Shot on a modified Nikon camera. So they even used digital cameras back in the 1970s, 1980s. I think the films.
So what would that have given them then? Why would they have done that?
I think it's just purely they were trying something out. I think if they wanted a small camera and they wanted it to look a certain way, and I think it's easier to do it then. Again, it was just a little fact what I picked up as I was reading through other bits and bobs.
Love it. I love it.
So, with all that information, I know it's quite a lot to take in. So obviously we've got to this point where we've gone film into digital. Like I said, they shouldn't ever be compared because they're different ways of doing things, but they still end up with the same thing. You end up with a piece of art. So on set when we sit there, so we've got commercials, dramas, and films and promos, and they're all done in a slightly different way. So like my day-to-day job. So the main thing I have to do is this lab process, which is offload the rushes, make sure they're safe. So I use a bit of software called Yotta, and I really like it. Other people use Silverstack. They all do the same thing. They offload with an MD5 checksum or x86 hash, which basically means...
I'm so sorry. What was that last sentence? What did you just write me?
All these little files do is basically they read every bit and byte, and they produce a document that says they're all there.
Okay.
And the main thing is, if you can do that process, that's the first step. So it means that your rushes are safe and that everything's offloaded and everything is fine.
Yep.
So if the editors go, oh, you missed a clip, and the director says, I definitely shot that. You go, did you look at the reports? And they go, no. I said, what did the reports say? They said, well, they're all there. And I said, well, then it's all there. That's what was done. So I said, it's a way of saying we've got everything. Let's move on, and it's just verifying that we do stuff. And it's a very important part of the process, but it's a very basic part of it. So the next step is the transcode stage, which is you get the brushes in, you have a look at stuff. So you check, if there's any flickering, you check if there's any problems, make sure the footage runs properly. There's no drop frames, there's no dead pixels, there's no, other problems that could have occurred that no one did notice first time around. If there is something, you go to the DP, and they go, listen, there's a problem here. The DP goes, or it's a focus problem. You go to the focus puller and say, would you like to have a look? And they have a look and they go, is that a problem? Then we kind of deal with it and move forward. So that with that process, then you basically create stuff for the edit. So you create files for NLEs, which are like Avid, FCP, Final Cut Pro, Premiere. NLEs, non-linear editing software. So it's going to come back from the Star Wars stuff. This is all generated from there, and you transcode to either a DNX HD36, which is for Avid, or a ProRes 422 flavor for Premiere or Final Cut or something else. And these are just what editors want to use. So this is the very basics. That's kind of what a data manager, a very simple job you do. You get the cards, stick them in, offload them, check them, transcode them for the edit, and walk away. However, we can do more than that, obviously. So we can go, well, I can add a look to it. So let's say I'll try and grade everything. So we do a best light or one light. Essentially means that I'll balance all the brushes to make sure all the colors and everything match, the contrast match. So when you cut with it, you have a piece of work that looks like it's one piece of work. So when they cut with it, so the editor doesn't jar and so forth. It just feels natural. Because obviously color is emotion. That's and it always is. So if something's blue, it's cold. If something's something's red and warm, it's hot. So one's more inviting, one's less inviting. Women prefer the color purple, men prefer the color red, and there's so much more to color than that. And it's something we're actually discovering at the moment. And color science and stuff is really evolving, and it's actually really exciting if you're a DIT. Yeah, but
even for branding and marketing and all the rest of it, there was an article that I was reading about specific colors are for supposedly for specific what's the word I'm looking for different areas of marketing. So if you're marketing a science-based product, or if you're marketing a yoga book, or if you're marketing a drink, or so whatever, everything's got its own specific kind of color that is best used for it.
Yeah, but they said like the color blue was never referenced. No, the color blue was never referenced until like I think the 1800s or something like that. So it didn't exist before that. But basically, so color is just one of those things that people don't really consider, but actually it's a very useful one. Once you kind of get an idea of it, you can do a lot with it, because obviously it's part of everything. So we can do this process where we can grade stuff, and DPs don't always trust you to do it. If they don't know you, they won't do it. Sometimes we just put a normal standard as a lookup table, so it's like a look that someone created in a lab and said this is kind of how to convert from one space to another space, and they stick it on and it looks okay. But if there's a light change or the sun comes out, the color changes. So what will happen is you'll have a mismatch grade, so things won't look quite right. So when they cut with it, they might not use the shot that they like because it's too sunny. But you can change that later, so they should really be using it. So it's much better to balance stuff, personally speaking, but balance stuff so everything looks like it's one piece of work, so you can move forward from there. So that I always recommended that's way going forward. But then you can take that again, the whole process a step further. You can actually create a look. So film stocks, you've got your Kodak 5-19, 5-17, you've got the Fuji stocks and all the different various of things. We can now make those stocks and put them into digital cameras, so the digital camera can actually look like it's filming film stocks. Or DP can come up with a whole new way of doing stuff themselves. So I can actually develop these little LUTs, put them into the cameras, and make the camera look like whatever they want it to look like.
Wow.
Whether in a technical way or a creative way. So, I want to make sure I'm always underexposing by stops. We take a stop away and stick it in, so he's always underexposed by a stop. He's always working that way. So it's a new way of working, but essentially it's given more control, more tools to the DP's kind of arsenal while he's on set to create images. And we're here just to, babysit that process, because it does get a bit overwhelming. Even for us, it gets a bit overwhelming.
It sounds overwhelming from the point that there's so much choice now.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it can allow someone to be to the nth degree exact on what their vision is. But actually, sounds like was film just a lot simpler, or what was that process of being able to get their look right?
It's simpler because they'd be leaving it till the end. So they'd shoot it the way they want to shoot it, and the DP would know exactly what's going on, and he'd have his light meter and they'd put it out and they'd do it. And then when they get to the thing, they have a thing called color timing, where Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was one of the first films done where they
Love
basically
that
colour
film.
timed it. Yeah, and so all those trees, they're all orange. They're actually green. They colour timed them orange, so they actually changed the colour of them to make them look like that.
Nice.
So, and that's the point. So he's changed it from what would have been a really boring, normal looking scene to these, autumnal sort of scene, which gives it a whole different part of the feel, feel in the film. It makes it feel for more rustic, I guess would be the question. So, but it wouldn't have been, if it was green and stuff, it would just be, a drama. So that's what Roger Deakins is quite big on kind of color grading and so forth, and famously, I heard, uses one LUT constantly, but you can use many if you want to. I mean,
one LUT being.
Look, he's got developed a way he likes to look at footage. So he sticks the camera, and when he puts the digital camera on, points it, and if he likes the look of it, he likes it, but he knows what it does, how it works, and so forth. So it's his way of technically creating an image the way he wants to create an image. But every DP, and this is the whole fun of them, is they have a way of looking at the world, which is what you hire. You're hiring their particular view of the world. So some DPs like it really dark and really moody and so forth. And there's a good way of creating LUTs to give them the same image, but still retain all the information rather than underexpose and starve the information of a sensor. And then you've got other DPs who like it bright and poppy and so forth. And colors will go out of gamut, which will mean they'll go too blue or too red. So your TVs don't even know what those colors are because you have so many colors.
It starts freaking out.
Yeah, and so you'll see it sometimes out of gamut blues. As the big stage shows, you see a blue light sweep across, and it'll look like it's in front of the TV screen because it's so blue and it's a block of blue, and it's really odd looking, and it's basically it's solarized, and that's an out of gamut blue, which means the blue is so blue that it doesn't know how to deal with it, so it fully saturates it and fully illuminates it, and it becomes this crazy block of blue. And we're moving. That's in our Rec 709 color spaces, is what the TVs at home will look at. And we're moving into Rec 2020, which I should explain at some point. They're basically amount of
just throwing numbers at me. I'm like, I'm gonna have to properly make a note of all of this so I can sound intelligent on set.
it's stuff that we know enough I can explain to you, but essentially it's of all the colors you can see, Rec 709 has been what we've been seeing in 16:9 HD stuff for countless years, and it's about 50, 55, maybe 60% of all the colors your eye can see, whereas Rec 2020 is about 80% of all the colors you can see. And then P3, which is the stuff they use in films, is about 70% odd. So the new 2020, when they go into UHD and all this other stuff, you'll see way more colors, way more brightness, way more everything, which is also the HDR stuff, which I won't go into. But it's another massive jump in technology where you're seeing more colors, more whites, more grays, more reds, more blues, more, everything. It's becoming richer and richer and richer. So when you look at a TV screen, you're like, is that a window or is that a TV? And that's kind of where we're getting to.
Have you always loved the technology side of it, the nuts and the bolts, or is this something that you've just had to kind of deal with because it's your job?
No, I mean, a good DIT has to read a lot. A good DIT has to test. You have to go and make sure that things work. You have to, make sure you have all this information at hand. And I've got loads of apps and I've got loads of little things, documents I've written and stuff. And I mean, I'm sure other guys have got the same thing. We share these documents with other people. Just a way of going, DP goes, so what's the frame rate, maximum frame rate on a 65? And you're like, it's, I think it's about 40 frames at full 6.5K, sir. But because we have to bring this information because the DPs expect it. So the point is we're now becoming a hub of information for the cameras, a hub of information for color. We're also the linchpin, linchpin for all the bottom piece. I won't say arsehole, but maybe I did. But everything gets stuffed into us, and then it goes down to post from us. So with this little tiny, with this tiny ring where everything's being forced through from on set.
God, I'm just picturing it. I can't get that image out. Don't use the hands. For those listed on the podcast, just don't use that.
Well, the thing is,
the bottleneck. Let's say bottleneck. Let's
say okay. So we're a bottleneck in the production. So on set, we're at the end of the shoot, the entire budget of the entire shoot sits on your desk. And so again, it's one of those things. So you're
a lot of responsibility for a student that doesn't know anything about it and has never been on a set. That's tough.
This is the point. So it's saying to other people that this is the easiest job on set, you should do it. You carry quite a lot because you have to do that. You've got all this stuff on there, and then then to pass that over to make sure they deliver it safely. So you have 2 drives usually on set, sometimes 3, and they separate in different, traveling to different places and so forth. And I did a job with a client once, and the client was desperate to take all the rushes back every night. and they were going in the same cab to the same hotel. And I was like, guys, you can't really do that. I said, I can keep a copy in my van, I can lock it in, no one's going to touch it and so forth, but you've got to give me some trust with this. But because if anything happens to these copies or one of these copies or both these copies, you've got nothing. Like, your entire budget's here. So you need to be a bit responsible about how you separate stuff. And I got left basically on the side of a road dealing with these clients, arguing with them, saying why they can't take both of their drives of all their rushes, saying, look, I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying it's probably not the best idea for you to take both of them because that's the only copies in existence. And they're like, yeah, but we know it's fine and so forth. I'm like, okay, but just so you're aware, and because obviously I don't want to take responsibility for anything going wrong, and so then obviously the minute they left, they took both drives, and I was like, okay, phone the production manager, I'm so sorry, listen, this is what's happened, and this is what they've done. Just to let you know, I just want to make sure I can write in the email, and this is what I've learned over my years: is always write it in an email what's happened, so you have a record to say this is what I said, and this is.
At the end of the day, it's their footage, I guess that's how they were thinking. They're like, we've paid you all to do this. This is ours. I'd like to take it, but actually, if they're in the same cab and something happens and they get robbed or there's an accident or something, and those rushes, obviously, hey, look, their safety is their paramount. But if we're just talking about the specific product that we're creating, yes, it makes sense for there to be a secondary drive that's not with them somewhere else.
Yeah, which
kind of makes common sense, but
Yeah, which usually would go with production or so when someone else. But this is one of those extraneous circumstances where I got left behind, and I got left. And David said, "Would you mind?" I said, "Absolutely fine." I just didn't see it happening because I was busy just doing my thing.
Well, that's it. Rush's run of now over. That's it. Runners don't have to. That was my entire career. It's big boxes of footage. Driving into Mid Street at 11:30 at night to try and make that 12:30 bar.
Well, it's funny that because runners aren't expected to do the Rush's run anymore. Now
that's it.
GPMs and producers or PAs are left behind to kind of do that. So I always think that's kind of it's. I don't know. Maybe we should go back to being runners. Perhaps that level of responsibility. I don't know.
What were they going to do? It makes more sense that the production manager takes it because then it goes back to the office and it's there. I don't know. Yeah.
So, and then on top of that, so with all that complication with obviously LUTs and transcodes and stuff, there's another thing.
I'm going to be honest. There's a bits of what you've said that have just gone straight over my head. But I will listen back to this and I'll be like, oh, okay. Rex, what was it? Rex.
Well, yeah.
Rex
709.
Rex 709. Sounds like a rapper. I'm just throwing it out there.
Go BT 608 if you want to go down to the
their latest album was amazing. I loved it.
Right. So, as I said, there's different roles within the DIT Brotherhood.
But is that something that, as you do more, you just gain more skills, or are you coming in and expected to kind of be able to do all of those things?
With them, like I said, the conversation I'm supposed to have with these guys who are basically trying to create this DIT thing, we want to make sure that it's the DIT that has to know all this stuff, because that's the whole point of the DIT. Yeah. But because there's no structure and there's no, like, I can't train anyone without them becoming direct competition. And like, I don't mean that in a sort of like, that's why I wouldn't train people. I train a lot of people. But the problem is they won't win jobs over me. I've got more experience than they do, so they're not going to work. That's the problem. And then no one's going to trust them to work because, like I said, it's a lot of responsibility. So one of the things we wanted to create was this structure where you have a data manager who, in a safe environment, I can train someone who can just offload rushes. And in the film world, you do get basically these data managers, data wranglers. You get them on set, so you actually have someone to offload your rushes. So you're on set and you're doing what we call is live grading. So live grading is basically creating LUTs live, connected to the camera, where the DP kind of goes, okay, great, I need a bit more blue, okay, a bit more red, perfect, yeah, that's cool, let's shoot. And then you save these files, which then go on to production, which get added to the grades later, and when they do the online dailies, basically. Yeah. So the commercial workflow is much, much simpler because we kind of take almost 3 or 4 people's jobs, or whole department's jobs, and make it into one person's job, much like we do with playback, much like you do with the grip department and so forth. It's just condensed because commercials are quicker in and out, and we can get it all done in a day. We can move on. Whereas in films, there's a bit more. They have to be a bit more structured because it's a longer process. So they need to have more sort of things. So the DIT structure. So the DIT would have to basically look after the exposure, the live grade, and then basically you're babysitting the data manager who's offloading rushes, going, I've looked through stuff. There's a few problems. Could you have a quick look? You go, fine, have a quick look. You speak to the DP and so forth, and then you have a trainee to get you coffees, which is very important also.
Nice. Yeah.
Because we do a lot of hours.
Yes, and also with the new guidelines that are coming out this week, gone out for 5. It's like, each department are going to be their own department, and a runner making teas just can't go around an entire film set under these COVID restrictions. So it makes sense. Everyone's going to need it.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. So you're having to create sort of like these little tiny sort of globes of, especially in the COVID, globes of things. But as a DIT, you have to, in commercials especially, you have to be that already. Like I've got a kettle in my van because I've been left in fields like 2-3 in the morning with the PA or a producer, and we just been sitting there just chatting away while we're watching these little bars go across the screen. Like back in the day when we started and the connections weren't as fast, like we'd be doing 2-3 hours, 4, 5, 6 hours overtime above everybody else's overtime. So everyone goes, 16-hour day. You go, that's fine. I did 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just it was horrific. And obviously connections got faster. We got Thunderbolt 2, we got to USB-C or Thunderbolt 3, and now I can offload anything up to a gigabit a second now. So I can offload something like 200 gigs in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
Whereas 200 gigs previously would be like, okay, well that's going to be about 4 hours.
See you next week. Yeah.
Basically, but the cameras never produced enough data for it. But then obviously they still tried, and there was still moments where people would just turn the cameras and so forth. And like because I know other people have said it, the etiquette, and I think it was Tony Crouch said it, the etiquette is gone from filming. Just turn over, yeah, it's fine. And then just people talking over the rehearsals, and you're just like, guys, that's time the editors have to watch. That's time we have to download. Like it's just because it's digital doesn't mean it's cheaper. It's just it's.
But you know what? And even thinking about it, it's like that is your like that's the first time that I really put 2 and 2 together and gone. The amount of times that we say turnover and the whole thing stops for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's like, well, if we're doing 50 takes a day or whatever, that's another 2 hours of your time just because as ADs or directors or DOPs haven't cut or we haven't got that process. Yeah, that's your time that we're taking. Yeah, mate. Sorry.
Fun story. The Alexa Mini LF produces, and also the LF produces 32 gig a minute. So every minute is 32 gig. So 32 gig off an SD card will probably take you about an hour and a half to offload. It's one of the slow ones. So like that's an hour and a half of basically time you've wasted for a minute's worth of footage. Although off the big cards, it's literally about a minute, about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. But
mate, let's start a campaign. Let's get the process back. Let's save the DITs, eyes wide shut. Everything that's been happening. I'm telling you, we should do it.
It's the thing is, it is a big thing, and like I said, but don't get me wrong. I mean, I made most of my money from overtime. I don't people who get paid a lot. It's the overtime I get paid from. I mean, I did the job I did this week. I did 36 hours overtime in 4 days.
God.
So and there were 8-hour days. So I've actually I'm almost done. I did an extra 4 or 5 days on top of everybody else.
And that's because you've been, and we'll do it in the. This will probably come out. This ep will come out after that. So. That ep was your hashtag trending, and it was talking about what you've been doing last week before.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the one. But I mean, there's other.
So go check that out, ladies and gents. Go check that out.
There's that. So my famous one. This is one of my stories. So I was on set one time, and we were talking about our the eyes wide shut stuff, and I was with lovely Sam LePage, who I miss very much. Very lovely man. And we were talking about who does the most hours on set. So I'd go, I've just done a job. I've done 8 hours overtime or 5 hours overtime.
It's like war wounds. It's like, oh, look at this scar. Yeah.
And he turns around and he goes, listen, Mark, you don't know anything. I know a DIT who basically was up for 3 days offloading rushes. And he goes, basically what we did was a 3D thing. It was a performance. It was an hour and a half. And it was 3D. So there's 7 cameras. So that's 14 camera feeds. And they had this and you had to do this. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. That sounds like a lot. And I was like, Sam, you do know that was me, don't you? Went, that's where we met.
I recognised your face. You don't look as tired now, though.
Yeah. Oh, God.
My God.
It was an awful job. I basically set my phone to wake me up every 10 minutes, which is how long it took to offload the card. So I could just get literally 3-4 minutes sleep in between little kind of cat naps for 3. So it was 3 days.
God, I sat. That sounds horrendous, man.
This was in the early days of it, so no one really knew what they were doing. And like I'd come up, and this is again.
We still don't.
Well, this was a life lesson for me because I asked. I said I was supposed to be supporting another DIT, so I was like, that makes sense because obviously quite a lot of cameras. I'll be supporting someone. I turned up. They said, "Oh no, you're the guy doing everything," and I'm like, "What?" I just didn't ask enough questions. That was the problem. And like I said, it's always good to ask a lot of questions, which basically, again, part of my process is now asking loads and loads of questions before we start a job, because I need to know this stuff. Otherwise, wouldn't be able to know how to do it.
Yeah, and you can't be prepared. How many jobs have you turned up and you've gone, oh, we're shooting on this camera, and then all of a sudden a runner or someone come up and they go, here's the footage from the GoPro, and you're like,
yep, happens a lot.
Fucking GoPro.
Does happen a lot. If you guys started charging per camera, so charging extra per camera, and it's purely based off, if it's pre-agreed, then absolutely fine, but it's not agreed, then there'll be extra sort of costs and stuff like that. And it's people, if people come up to me, producers say, oh, why are you charging extra for the extra 2 cameras? You're just like, well, we didn't discuss them, and I can take it off if you want to, but it's purely there just to go, can you please make sure you talk to me, because I just need to know this stuff. Because if one of the worst things that could possibly happen, and it's the thing I swear around the most, is actually running out of space on the hard drives. And it's happened. And it's happened because, there was one camera and I'll go, great, these are the drives you need for this, and this is this, and for this, if we're shooting this format and we're shooting like this, and we're going to do, and it's an interview, so it's a long take or short take. So I work it all out and go, right, this is roughly, and it's about 2 hours a day of footage is kind of the rule of thumb. And you go, great, so this is how much we need. And then you'll shoot, and they go, oh, here's another camera, and we're shooting high speed. And you're just like, I'm just not going to be able to put this on the drives.
Well, it's like, the process of shooting on film, which was, we've got 13 rolls to do 2 days of shot, or 14 rolls to do thing. It's 7 rolls a day. Each shot has got, there was a slight mathematical element to having to micromanage the process of how much you were filming. Maybe that's, it's like, that's all you're trying to do is just figure out how many rolls of film you need, in theory.
That's exactly it. But I mean, fortunately, the manufacturers have stopped producing certain types of drives. So if the fastest RAID drives you can get are 8 terabytes, and basically apart from that, 6 terabyte G drives, and you can get 1 or 2 little lacy ruggeds. And because there's so little choice, it's actually a lot easier, because you can kind of go, well, you need these for that job, and you need these for those jobs. And I'm forever looking for kind of cheaper options for production, so they can kind of get the right drives for the right jobs, so they're not overspending. Because, like I said, drives are expensive. You can spend £500 a drive when you can get away with paying £100 a drive. Yeah. I mean, the difference is 800 quid, because it's obviously 2 drives. So it's a lot of money that you can sort of save in between. So I mean, for me, it's very always trying to balance the what are you shooting, how you're shooting it, to how to put it all together, which is the first conversations I always have with people. It's like, what are you trying to do? How are you trying to do it? Okay, how many cameras and so forth. And if there's anything changes, let me know, because this will change. Yeah. If you tell me on the day, and I'm just like, okay, guys, I need more drives. And they go, well, we can get drives on a Sunday. I'm like, I don't know. It's just something I can't manage this. I ask, tell me.
Well, it's stop, having that early conversation stops the problems later.
Yeah, again, another life lesson, to make sure you have conversations, you talk about stuff. It's really important. So, like I said, going back to the point I said about the films and dramas and so forth. So dramas tend to be offloading only. They don't really care about any of the process and so forth. Commercials, we're an end-to-end. We do a bit of everything, a bit of live grading, a bit of this and so forth. And films, you have the structure. Again, with films, so you end up having 8 cameras to manage the the exposure of. So one of the jobs that a lot of DITs do, and I know I do with a lot of the guys I work with closely, is they ask me to keep an eye on the monitor the entire time. So while I'm offloading doing my work, I've got a monitor in front of me connected to
playback. Yep. Okay.
And I'm connected, and I go, okay, well, that looks about half a stop overexposed to me, half a stop underexposed. That's flickering. This is a problem here. This needs to be fixed. Needs to be done. And DP actually said to me, "Who's lighting this, me or you?" And I'm just like, "Well, you're lighting it. I'm just telling you where the bits you need to do, to tweak it."
Yeah, it's your job. I'm just telling you how to do it better. I'm just helping you. Yeah.
It's like what was it? You go home and your mother, you got a bit of smudge on your cheek, and your mother licks her tissue and wipes it off. It's kind of a bit like that. Sort of like, you did a good job, but let me just,
it's just. But then, the thing is that as a DP, there's so much going on in their brain. There's so many departments that they have to manage, and actually trying to keep on top of all the technology that's changing. Every 6 months, maybe every year or so, there's always going to be something newer. Actually, just kind of, I guess, having the humility to say, maybe humility, just to say, well, actually, yes, it's your department. You know more about it. Thanks so much. That feels like that's probably a trait that I'd probably feel like I'd have to take on, because I just wouldn't. They're thinking about other things. Yeah. Well,
that's the thing, that
you're a safety net, you of sorts.
Yeah, that's that, because I always consider DITs as QC. We're just basically quality control, just to make sure you want that light there. That's absolutely fantastic. You just need to make it a tiny bit brighter, and then we're in a good place. and that's it. They go, well, I don't like it how it looks like that. He goes, well, it's fine. We'll bring it down later. We'll make sure that in the grade that goes a bit darker, we'll make it work. And they go, fantastic. But we just need the information there, because my job is to make sure that your neg is what we classify as a thick neg, as in has as much information on there as possible.
Yeah.
So that, you can do whatever you want later on. You can change stuff. So if there is a problem and you want to change the blue to a red, or you want to make the blue super bright, you can. If you starve the neg of information, you won't get there. Like I said, and it's not the same as film. Like we're working with a linear process. It's zeros and ones. More light in means more information out. It's that simple. With film, it was slightly different because it was a chemical process. So you could definitely do a lot more interesting things with it. But I'm not saying you can't with digital. You just have to be the person that does it rather than by accident. There's a lot of happy accidents with film, whereas digital isn't. It's almost like a clinical process.
Yeah. So is that where you started? Did you start off in film in the camera department, or what was your route in?
No, I started off. I've got a degree in pharmaceutical sciences, which is a chemistry and biology degree. No,
this guy Breaking Bad up in the house. I love it.
Yeah, so I started. So this is what it's a very.
How do you come about? Well, I guess the chemical process has got you into film, or is it just like got bored of? Go on, what's the story?
This has been my hobby since I was a kid. We used to make films with my cousins, and we used to kind of. I taught myself to edit. I taught myself to shoot. I taught myself, to take photos. I taught myself to kind of do everything, because at school, nobody ever told me it was something I should do. I was good at art and I was good at creative stuff. I was good at photography, and they went, "Yeah, but you're also good at science." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what's a better career route?" And they went, "Oh, science, definitely." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, but it's not that much fun." And they're like, "Yeah, no, but it'd be a good career." And I'm like,
"Good for you,
I guess." Yeah. So I kind of did that, and so I came out of university. I did a year in I did a 4-year degree, and one of my years was I was in a laboratory, and I worked in an animal testing laboratory, which was really fascinating. I don't believe in it, but I thought, it's one of those things you've got to test yourself. So I wanted to see kind of how it worked. So I thought it'd be an interesting thing to do. A year doing stuff, in a lab, seeing how it all works and so forth. And get me on. Feel free to ask questions, by the way, anybody, if you want to talk about it. Like I said, I don't believe in vivisection, but I also see the point of it now more so than I used to. Anyway, so left university, and and they went, "Okay, we'll offer you 10 grand a year for this job." I went, "Great." So I sat in this interview going, 10 grand a year. Is that like a starting salary? They went, "No." And I went, "Okay, can we get promoted after and they went, "No." I went, "Is there other departments I can go to?" They went, "No." And I was like, I just have to say no. I'm sorry, I can't. I said, I can get more working in Tesco's than this. And I was like, I don't want to start my career in a dead-end career. Why would I want a dead-end job like from the get-go? And I mean, one thing about me is I'm hugely ambitious. I like achieving stuff. I like moving forward, which is why I like training people. Why I like even why I'm doing this. I love to kind of show people how to do things properly and so forth. I mean, say properly in the way I like to do things, and see if they kind of vibe with it. And so I decided to form a band at that point, because I've been playing in bands for years.
Music band?
Yep. So I was in a band.
Stop it.
And
come on.
I used to play on the same circuit with Mumford & Sons. We used to support them a couple of times. So when they got signed, they were a small band. We were in the same sort of group, and we got signed with another label, except our singer went with a rapper to be a self-recording artist, which didn't really work out. Everyone else went to EMI and Virgin, and they all did very well, whereas we were oh, okay, well, now it's that. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy to pieces and stuff, and it was a good idea.
Is there albums? Is this on Spotify? Can people tell us what's the name of the band?
That was Kevin Tuffy, who was basically a solo artist, and really lovely guy, and he's working as a mixing engineer at the moment, I think, or master engineer.
And what did you play?
I was a bass player.
Stop it.
Yeah, and I was also in a rock band called Big Truck, and we did a lot of stuff. Recorded a couple of albums with that as well. Ask me, I'll get you an album. I've got loads of them at home that are going nowhere. I've even gone to Spotify as well. There's actually have a track wrongly named on Spotify under the wrong artist as well. So that's pretty good.
Nice.
So anyway, but that obviously failed, as most music stuff does. And I just didn't know what to do. I was kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, and I was like. And my dad had just been working, basically he's a builder, and he'd been working on a house by Charles Allen. Charles Allen, his partner, basically is an architect, and Charles Allen was basically the head of ITV, or the CEO of ITV. And my dad said, "Oh, my son's really interested in TV stuff. Could you get him in?" And he was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll get him in." So I got in for work experience. I worked on a documentary for ITV called Britain's Hardest Away Days, which is about football fans, basically.
With is it Danny Dyer? Was it one of those kind of series?
Yeah, that type of
Here
stuff.
We are. Swansea away, come on, let's have it. That kind of
Pretty
stuff.
much. And like, so my job was to
must have fitted in so well.
Yeah, my job was to watch rushes. I had to watch rushes and log them, and anything interesting they say or do, or bad things they do, I had to write down. So kind of,
wow.
And this is what I did for a month. I did it for no money whatsoever. It was just like, I think they paid some expenses, so my train fare was paid, and that was it. And then it kind of got to the end, and I was like, well, is that it? Is there nowhere I can go? And then one of the PAs went, look, I've been watching you. I think you're really good. My friend's working in TV's Naughtiest Blunders. Do you want to move across to there? And I was like, that would be great. So I moved off to TV's Naughtiest Blunders, and I was like, oh, that's fantastic. So I worked there for about a year and a half after that, which was great. And
running, work experience, that kind of stuff, or the lower end.
Mainly watching rushes. And I learned to watch rushes in high speed. So watch it in fast forward. So because you can always tell when something naughty happens because something they break the camera. So I watched Sharp. I used to love Sharp, by the way. Like it's with Sean Bean,
the police or whatever. Yeah.
I used to love it, and I watched all the rushes for all the series and found all the little bloopers and stuff from that, and it was great, and I had a really good time. And then, this is kind of where it gets a bit. Again, I got to the end of this, and nothing had happened. I'm like, well, this is a bit weird. And my friend takes me to one side, and she says, "Listen, you're never going to make it here." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You're too well spoken, and you're too ambitious." It's like, oh, well, I just thought there was like positive things. I thought, I thought that was a good thing. And they were like, she was like, no, it doesn't work here. People are kind of, they're not happy because they see you as a threat. So you're just never going to make it. And funnily enough, I also developed a TV show, which became a multinational show, syndicated around the world, which I never got any credit for, which is why you should always read your contracts.
Oh no. What was it? Can you tell us?
Take Me Out. So Take Me
Out.
Stop it. I developed it. And the way I found out, I looked in Broadcast Magazine and they copied my summary and they literally posted it in the magazine. I was like, well, they sent me an email which basically said, thanks so much for your idea. Thanks for your audition, but we've got something very similar in the works. And you're like, well, I'd agree with you if you hadn't literally stolen my summary. And posted it in the newspaper. But again, if you work for a multinational company, so why you read your contracts says that they own all the intellectual property that you create. And in fact, some of our contracts say the same thing. So if anyone's actually creating their own work, please read your contracts on set. Please be very careful about what you sign, NDAs and other contracts and so forth, because you could be in a bit of a spot of bother and you could lose yourself, like I said, a multinational syndicated TV show.
Wow.
So I said, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased you did, because then you wouldn't be here.
Well, it's positive. It's positive to it. So anyway, so from there, I hit that wall. So then I kind of worked in little bits of bob jobs here and there. Still not quite making it anyway. Still not kind of finding my feet. But in the meantime, in ITV, they put you on courses. So I did all the courses: colouring, camera work, researching, running, whatever it was. I did every course going. I did every show going. I literally worked every single job. I did, worked on Who Wants to Be a Celebrity. I worked on Ant and Dex and Takeaway. Anything that was doing celebrity spelling bee, if it was there, I would do it. I did the BAFTAs, I did it all, just because I was like, I need to see if I can find my feet. I just couldn't break through. I just wasn't their type of person. So I just was like, well, this isn't really working for me. So I ended up in Disney, do you know, in Chiswick Park, where Disney, basically do promos and little things like that.
Okay.
So I ended up working for them, and except I was working for Jetix, which then got bought out and now is Disney XD. And I worked for their sort of promo/commercial department. And finally I got to a place where I was actually quite happy. I was like, this is great. So I started kind of doing these little tiny commercials and shoots, and started meeting my first ADs, and started meeting like production managers and DOPs, and learning, doing the camera stuff. And I was very much going, hey, how do I do your thing? How do I get into your thing? And they're just like, oh, it's just, this is a company thing and blah. And I just kind of got shut down a bit. So I was like, okay. So then with the big move from Jetix to Disney XD, they basically did a kind of a merger. I kind of got left behind, and I kind of got put to a position where, once again, I was taken aside by the CEO of MEA, who went, you're a bit too ambitious for this sort of company, and like, perhaps you'd be happier somewhere else. And I said, and I was like, oh, well, you can't really fire me. And he's like, well, no, but I just don't think you're happy here. And I'm like, well, no, you're right. Yeah. And I was like, oh, so what do I do now? Anyway, once again, I hit another brick wall, basically. I was like, where do I go from here? And the production manager who'd been working on one of the commercials said, a guy called Christian Fitzpatrick, and if he's out there, thank you very much, introduced me to Callbox. So finally, I'm with Julia, with Claire, with Patsy, and they're like, we're going to help you out. And they did. And they put me as a digital technician, or like, it wasn't technician, but like a technical runner, a digital runner, a digital whatever else. And slowly I just started meeting people and started doing stuff. And they put me forward for every single job going. And I worked in Hungry Man, I worked in this place, I worked in another place. And I was like, this is great. This is what I want to do. and trying to see what happened. And all of a sudden, the DIT thing just literally exploded. And they're like, you know about this stuff, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I've got all the courses here, the certificates. And they went, great, that's what you are. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
And that's just sort of...
It just found you.
Yeah. So again, what was it? Toby Corlander said, this industry chooses you, you don't choose it. And I totally agree with him. It's just sort of, you're in the right place at the right time. And it just went, yeah, that's what you are. That's who you are. And that's what you should do. And
Amazing.
as you know, I love what I do, and I love the people I work with. I'm so happy. I've never been so happy, working with, doing anything.
Yeah. And you can be as ambitious as you want. That's the beauty of it. Oh, amazing. Well, look, dude, we've definitely gone over the 45. Probably we're coming up to close to an hour. So have we missed anything? Have I, was there a question because I've just loved listening. It's amazing.
Sorry, I just kind of.
I love it. I love it. Sometimes, it's like I just drop a little question and then it's like, pow. So I normally kind of ask if there's advice for younger self, but is there something else that you want to just get out there before that?
My younger self would be essentially just keep going. Just like, don't stop at any point. You need to keep going. And I had a whole bunch of quotes which I thought were quite funny, which I learned on set. You get more with honey than vinegar, which is pretty common, but that's pretty good. Don't take things personally. It's a high stress environment, and people say mean things because they're stressed. So it's not always personal. So don't take it personally. Choose your jobs. Say yes. Fail to prepare to fail.
Nice.
If you're late, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. Lovely,
nice.
define that one.
Yeah.
If you see a seat, sit on it. If you see food, eat it, as you'll never know where you'll eat or sit again.
It's like the SAS.
These are all
unless you're a runner and never sit down.
Yeah. So I think it's a lightning bolt moment, which I'll quickly go over, which was basically I was working in Hungry Man with Luke Thornton on a Microsoft commercial. All the prep inside, and I was having so much fun. Matt Buellson, who was very good to me when I was a runner, who always looked after me. And I was sitting there with Luke Thornton, and we're just going around, both of us sort of thing. And it was the first moment. I remember going home, and I was in the cab. Luke bought me a cab. The first time I got a cab home, I was really pleased.
Big.
I said, and the M4 where it goes to the raised bit of the M4 as you go out towards Heathrow from central London.
To
the roundabout.
Yeah.
So basically, the sky turned pink and red and golden. I'm just smiling, going, this is where I'm meant to be. This is great. 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, going, this is the best thing ever. This is such a good place to be.
Oh, dude, I love it. Well, look, ladies and gents, the enthusiasm, the knowledge, the sheer love of what you do. Like, you are one of the very lucky people in this world that has bounced around, has ended up doing something that they genuinely love, who is happy to set the alarm for 3 in for 10 minutes so that you can get a little bit of sleep to then get back up and carry on doing your DIT. And like, mate, me personally, I'm so fucking pleased for you. I'm so happy that, and this is it. This is the film industry that, you might have started off making your films when you were a teenager and gone, I want to be the next Quentin Tarantino. And then actually the journey that you've had has kind of taught you that, or has kind of led you down a path that is maybe better suited to you, or just something that, that you've loved doing, man. I love it. These are the chats that I love, because you get that emotion from people that they love what they do. It's not just like, I get up and I do the job and I put in an invoice. It's like, no. Invoice aside, I love doing this, I love doing that, I love doing this, I love doing that. So thank you, dude. Have you got any kind of shout outs? Anyone that you want to give a big shout out to? Like how I did it for the last couple, I'm like, look, this is your Oscars moment. You just walked up onto the stage, everyone's clapping, and the award goes to, and this is it. So who are you thanking?
Well, I wanted to thank you, but obviously self-promotion in something you're promised. But because I think what you're doing is amazing. Like, I really do. It's kept me going while I've been building my pergola the last couple of weeks. Like I said, it's just, I love listening to my friends.
It's lovely. It's a beautiful pergola.
Exactly, it's lovely. The CBTF, which became the film and TV charity, I was going to do a shout out to them, but you've done that already, and like, they're wonderful. What they do is brilliant, and it's, like I said, it's a really important thing to have around.
Yep.
Callbox and Wizzo, who have both supported my career hugely. So I really want to say thank you to Lee Hickman and Patsy and Julia and Claire, which is obviously they're important. The work that APA and Beck are doing at the moment with all the COVID stuff, I mean, that's absolutely amazing. I know there's a meeting shortly to work this stuff out, and like I said, please be involved in what's going on. Beck 2 is very important right now, because we have a chance to actually start changing our hours and putting some life back into our careers, so shortening our hours perhaps, or something to make life a bit easier for us. And the other thing was, you said about Eyes Wide Shut. So there's a guy called Haskell Wexler who did this documentary called Who Needs Sleep. It's on Vimeo. It's free. He tried to start a 12-12 movement, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, so that people could actually think. And he actually had a car crash and hurt himself quite badly. His loader died.
Yeah.
And it's really important that people understand that. So these are the things that people should be interested in. It's mainly union stuff and looking after yourself, because like I said, I do all the hours, and I'm so happy to be able to do all the hours, as you know, but I don't want to do all the hours. I have a son at home. I don't want to fall asleep at the wheel and die like people have done.
Big love. A massive. That's just such a beautiful, honest ending to just an amazing episode. So thank you, dude. Ladies and gents, I've got the goosebumps. That kind of shit just gets me going. So thank you. Thank you for everyone who's been listening. Thank you for all the film students and media students that have just been given a massive insight into what happens on a film set, and especially for your role. And ladies and gents, subscribe, share, send this stuff out. Make sure that people are listening. Thank you all for listening and for keeping us in the top 10 and for getting us into the American charts and the Canadian charts. It's madness. I'm on an amazing journey, and I'm talking to amazing people, and it's been amazing in time. So I'm getting emotional, so I'm going to stop. But I love you all. Keep safe, and ladies and gents, go check out his other reps. We're going to start doing it. Let's just get this man on every single week. We love it. Right, big love. Until we meet again, film family. That is a wrap. So that was a chat with the king or queen in the game. I give it a shout at the end, so you all know the name. It's the Film Gods Podcast. The what? The Film God Podcast.